Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special podcast with me, Ben Lister. Today, I have my interview that I did back in January here on YouTube with the legendary Stephannie Hirst. I hope you all enjoy it, and I'll talk to you in the wrap up. So, enjoy my interview with Stephannie Hirst, and hope you enjoy it. BL out, and that's a wrap. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast. It's 2021. We are in lockdown, but it's time to welcome you back to the Ben Lister Podcast Radio Show, Season 2, here on Hull Kingston Radio 107.4 FM. I have a lot of big guests on this series, including Sean Goldsmith and many more, but today's guest is a broadcasting legend from Capital and Viking FM and many more radio stations. She is now a presenter at Radio Leeds, and it's the great and truly inspirational Stephannie Hirst. Hello, Stephannie. Welcome along.
Ben Lister, hello. How are you?
Brilliant, thank you. Are you ready to go?
Oh, I'm all ready to go. Can't wait. You've interviewed lots of my friends, so yeah, I've got a lot to live up to because the people that you've had on. My old producer as well, Darren Leatham, you spoke to recently as well, didn't you?
He's a good friend of mine as well, and he's currently on air at the moment, so he's probably going to be listening to this when it goes out on Hull Kingston Radio.
Hello, Beard. That's his nickname.
If that's okay. Question 1, whenever you're ready. Let's begin.
Absolutely. Go on.
Where did you start your broadcast career?
Where did I start my broadcast career? I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be on the radio. I knew from at least about maybe 7 or 8, maybe a bit younger actually. Because my dad was a musician in bands, although he fixed TVs for a living. And music was all around me, and we had a radio on in the house, and that was always on. And I'd got this kind of thing in my head. I imagined what it looked like inside the radio, because that's what I thought all the DJs were. They were inside, not actually physically inside the radio, but you know what I mean. And I used to think that it was like a big kind of round performance area, and in the middle was a stage, and all around it. So if you imagine a clock, okay, and at like 1 o'clock, there was a band waiting to go. At 2 o'clock, there was another band waiting to go. At 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And the DJ was in the middle of this, and he'd bring each band on, and they'd all come on as the day went. And that's, as a 6-7-year-old, that's what I imagined it looks like. It looks nothing like that, of course. But it got my imagination going. And because I've always had a quite a creative imagination, I got a little bit obsessed by the radio, and I wouldn't go to sleep at night without the radio on in my bedroom. And I genuinely just adored it. And the station that I guess was more local to me was Hallam FM, or Radio Hallam as it was called. And I used to ring up and try and get a dedication on the air and stuff. And I could never get to speak to the DJs. It was always some kind of phone operative or receptionist I got through to, or something like that. And I want to speak to DJ, to the guy who I'm hearing on the radio. I want to speak to him. So I found another radio station down the dial, and I came across this station in Leeds called Radio Air. And I just rang up. The phone number as it was then was 0532 455 362. The old dialing code for Leeds, 0532. And I got through to the DJ. And then I didn't stop ringing. I called time and time and time again. And eventually, after ringing all these times, I asked, could I come in for a look round? And I did, and I never left. Essentially, I got the chance to go in every weekend and essentially make the tea for DJs. And I kind of never looked back after that, really. I was kind of just in the building, making tea, learning how to use the equipment, and that's when I was 12. So I was really young when I started. You wouldn't be allowed to do that. Kids at that age wouldn't be allowed to be in a radio station, probably because of insurance purposes and stuff like that. But in the late 80s, that, it seemed to people allowed it. So I did that, and then eventually I got to go on the air and do my own show, which was covering from a guy who's actually from Hull, Neil Rudd, who's you might hear him on
He
Humberside usually
he
and stuff like
worked
that.
for Radio Humberside, sorry, and now he works for Beverly FM with a guy who's now, that station's now owned by an ex-Viking guy, I believe, called Dave Fewster.
It is, yeah. He launched Viking in 1994, didn't he, Dave Fewster? And so I covered for Neil, and that was it really. I started to get loads of cover work, and yeah, that was the real start. But there was a lot of graft, I guess, really, and hard work that went in to learn how to do it. But it's interesting. One of my best friends is Chris Miles, and we speak every other day or every week or something like that. And occasionally we talk about radio air and stuff. And it's interesting. We were chatting recently about this, and he said to me that no one had to teach him how to use the equipment. He just instinctively knew. And I said, yeah, me as well. I just knew what it did. I didn't have to have it explained to me, because there was no computers back then. It was all, you either got it or you didn't. And if you didn't, you had it explained to you. But I just remember getting behind the mixer and just knowing that the first fader was for the turntable, and the second one was for the second turntable, and the third and fourth one were for the two cart machines that played the jingles. And then the fifth one along was for the reel-to-reel machine, and the sixth one was for IRN for the news, and the seventh one was for another studio, and the other three were for the mics. I just knew it, and I don't know why. It just was really instinctive to me. So I kind of took to it like a duck to water, and loved it. And you couldn't get me out of that place. I used to dream of being in radio air from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. And I was really lucky that I got to do work experience when I was 15. I convinced my teachers at school that it'd be a really good idea to allow me to go into a radio station for 2 weeks and, and learn work experience what it was like in the workplace. And I did. And you know what? I stood in front of a photocopier for 2 weeks, photocopying sales invoices. And I was like, I think I spent about an hour in the studio across the entire week. I was gutted. But it taught me a great deal. It taught me how the business works. And that's something up until that point I didn't realize. So work experience, actually looking back, did me a huge favor, because I got to spend time in sales. I got to spend time in the news department. I got to spend time with the commercial production guys who were making the adverts, all sorts of stuff, promotion. So I got to see how the business works from top to bottom, essentially. So yeah, bit of a long answer, but that's essentially how I got started, really.
Yeah, you're inspiring the next generation, a bit like I'm doing.
Yeah. We've all got to help the next generation coming through and give advice. There's a guy I've mentored for quite a few years, since he was 16, actually, Joe Mitchell, and he's now doing some stuff on Radio 1, which is brilliant. Danny Milo, who's on The Pulse, does the breakfast show. I've mentored him since he was 15, 16. He's doing incredibly well. So yeah, there's people I really love to help the next generation, because people took time when I was young. People took time to steer me in the right direction and help me.
And you are an inspiration to us all, and you are an inspiration to me as well.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome. Question 2. Who were your inspirations in broadcasting growing up?
When I was growing up, now because I've mentioned Radio Air, and I used to listen to Radio Air a lot, the first DJ I really got a little bit obsessed with was James Whale, who used to do this show late at night on Radio Air. And for the first hour, it wasn't a kids program, but there was lots of kids and teenagers on, because he'd do this thing called do-it-yourself dedications, which was essentially you rang up and they would put you on the air and you had 20 seconds to introduce the next song. So it wasn't him doing the dedications, it was you. You were doing your own dedication on the radio and you had 20 seconds to do it. And because James is a real taskmaster, he never let you go on too long before cutting you off. So and I got banned from calling, not by my parents, but by Radio Air. I think they just said, you've been on too much, because I used to ring every night asking for my favourite record. And then from 11 until 2 in the morning, it was more of an adult kind of show, really, for grown-ups and a phone-in. But James was the first one that I was really, I would say, a little bit obsessed with. And then there was a guy called Paul Stead, who's an incredible TV producer now, makes all sorts of wonderful programs. The Yorkshire Vet is one of his as well. Excuse me. And and he's the guy that got me in. Thanks to him, I rang him up, and that's when I said, "Can I come in and look round?" And he said yes. And Paul will always be one of my heroes because he taught me a lot, and Carl Kingston as well, who I went on to help out. These guys were my radio heroes, and I owe them so much because they taught me a huge deal.
Yeah, you're an inspiration. One of my heroes is the great Tony Blackburn, actually.
I know Tony is lovely. He's we got to know each other on a flight to Australia, and I sat next to him, and then we were doing our radio shows from Australia when I was at Galaxy, and he was doing his show. He was on Classic Gold then, and he was doing his breakfast show there as well. And we just hit it off, and we've been really good friends ever since. Got a lot of time for Tony. He's a lovely human being.
Yeah, he is. He's one of my radio inspirations and one of my broadcast inspirations as well. He's good old Yorkshireman Michael Parkinson.
Good old Parkies from Cudworth in Barnsley, where I didn't grow up in Cudworth, but I did. I did spend quite a few years there. Yeah, Parky, God love him.
Yeah, I've actually got an autograph of him.
Have you?
From my birthday a few years ago that my cousin organised for me.
My friend did her first interview many years ago, and her first interview that she'd ever done was Michael Parkinson. And I was like, so I went along with her to kind of help, just, be by her side. So she was really nervous. And she just asked for some advice because she said that this is my first interview. And he was really kind. He says, oh, he couldn't tell. And she asked for some advice. And his advice was, I'll never forget it. It was always listen to the person that you're interviewing. If you've asked a question, always listen to their reply, because not a lot of people do. They always then think of what's the next question I'm going to ask and all sorts of stuff like that. But listening is so important when you're interviewing someone.
That was in my Peter Levy interview as well, because he's interviewed Parky as well.
Yeah, it's just really important to listen.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is, because the interview is the important thing. They are the objective. You're trying to gather the information from them.
Yeah.
To find out about them. To find out the story and get your story or get your point across, point of view. And you need to have, as Mike Graham from Talk Radio or James Whale taught me, you can't have two people who are writing the interview. You need to have a bit of controversy in an interview or a topic.
Well, I think it's you just how can I put it? I guess you've just got to have some balance in there as well, or an alternative view. It's important that it's not all one-sided.
Yeah. Question 3. What is your favourite part of the job?
Oh gosh, what's my favourite part of being on the radio? I adore sitting in front of this thing, the microphone. I don't know. I guess another broadcasters will probably say this to you, that you feel more comfortable in front of the microphone than you do in real life, to be honest. I enjoy chatting to the listener. I enjoy having callers on. That's the one thing I do love. I love speaking to people. I do this thing called What's That Noise? Which essentially is a noise, and you got to work out what it is. I needed something really easy and really simple for people to get their heads around during lockdown. And whether it'll last when we come out of lockdown, I might get rid of it. But it's just something to take people's minds off things. But it's just brilliant because I get to chat to listeners and have a bit of banter with them. So I love doing that. And also, I think, you get to play a load of great music in a soundproof room, and you can have it on as loud as you want. So yeah, and I think it's an honor and a privilege to sit behind a microphone, and I never take it for granted, ever take it for granted. So there's varying reasons why I like the job or I love the job. It is, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best job in the world. Radio is just, it's brilliant. None of this TV nouveau business, wireless rules.
A man who inspired me to get into radio, actually, who implemented me and supported me a bit, was a guy called Paul Woodford.
I don't know, Paul. I don't think I do. Do I?
He used to work at Yorkshire Curst in KCFM.
Oh, did he? I might have met him.
Yeah, anyway.
You can cut this bit out because it might sound embarrassing.
That's Millsy. He does the editing. Pete Mills will probably do the editing and tell me off if I overrun or if he is sound in the background.
Oh, bless you.
How has curvid affected your life and line of work?
I've still been going into work daily. I could do my radio show from home, as I'm sitting in my studio now. So I could, play all the tunes from here, do everything, and it could all be great. But I've needed some kind of routine. And I think still going into work has really helped my mental health. And I think that radio it's been such a powerful medium for the audience. It's been their friend. It's lifted the general public up when they probably needed it the most. We do a thing at the BBC, Make a Difference, which is reaching out into communities and really helping. The Make a Difference calls have been through the roof. It's really made a massive, massive difference to communities and to help people in these really tough testing times, I guess. And it's changed a lot. I mean, we do talk about it a lot because it's what is happening. This is not unique to one person. This is happening to everyone across the world. So, it's something that you can't escape, and it does take up, quite a lot of the content that we talk about. Everything eventually always comes back round to the COVID, as I say, the good old COVID. Well, not the good old COVID actually. But yeah, it has it's impacted massively on how we program the show and put the show together. I'm just very blessed that people listen and enjoy the show.
And it's also not being able to have the guests in the studio, because usually I know at Humberside, because I used to sneak into one of the BBC Open Centres and watch the presenters at work, because I like to watch other presenters at work, you see.
Yeah, that's been a thing I've really missed. I've really missed having people in the studio. I've really missed that because I love chatting to people. I love speaking to people.
That's it for part one from Steph. Join me in a bit for some more questions. That's okay. Join me in part two for a bit. Part one's done, so we'll go move on to part two. Welcome back.
You know what? Just do that last outro again. Give Peter another option.
This is it. That's it for part one. Join me. We'll hear from Steph in a bit for some more questions, if that's okay. Join me in a bit for part two. Welcome back to the Ben Lister Podcast Radio Show, part two. We are still here with Stephannie Hirst. 4 more questions to answer. Let's go. Question 5.
4 more questions.
What is your greatest moment so far in your career or your life?
What is my greatest moment so far in my career or life? Oh gosh, I've done a lot when I think back. And it's only dawned on me recently that I've done quite a bit. Because you just go from one job to the next, you move from one station to another. For me, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and I'm still chasing the pot of gold. I've not quite got to the pot of gold yet, because that's where I've always been heading. I do my own heading with my ambition, I break my own brain sometimes with being too ambitious. Oh gosh, where I enjoyed it. I did the chart show during the noughties, the national chart, which was I never even expected to do that. That just kind of fell in my lap by accident because I'd gone from Viking and we'd done really well. We'd won some awards. Everything was great. We had to put a shelf up because of the awards. And
sorry, Darren Leafan actually shared a photo earlier of, because it's 18 years since you won the Cerny Award today, he said.
Is it 18 years ago today that we won the Cerny?
Yeah, that's what Darren Leafan said, and he showed a picture of you
and John Peel and
guy with afro.
That'd be Danny that works on the show. Is that on his Twitter?
No, it was on our group chat, our presenters group chat, because okay. I was telling Darren and Dave I had you on, and I was a bit nervous.
Oh, don't be nervous. Don't bite. So yeah, we won some awards, we were very, very, very lucky. Very lucky. But I must say, the Viking show, I don't think would have been as much of a success had it not been for, of course, Darren. Thanks, Beard, for all your hard work and everything. But Stuart Baldwin, who was our boss, and thanks to him and James Roberts and Lydia, of course. Lydia, I loved working with Lydia. She doesn't work in radio anymore, but she was incredible production. She was just brilliant at it. And we were so lucky. In fact, the whole team at Viking I've got so many fond memories from Joss Swinson, of course, the MP. We were just really lucky. And from there, I went to Galaxy. And then whilst at Galaxy, I was only at Galaxy a few months. And then I got this call to kind of Dr. Fox, who was doing the Pepsi chart at the time, was busy doing pop idol stuff. And they needed someone to sit in for him. And I ended up getting the job to be his deputy. And then I ended up getting it full time. And Katie Hill did it with me from Blue Peter for 18 months or so, and then I ended up getting it on my own, bizarrely. So yeah, that was a real highlight. It's difficult to pick what has been the career highlight, I guess. Really, I guess I never take for granted being on the radio. I feel incredibly lucky still to do what I do for a living every single day, because there's been some challenges along the way, and there was at one point a chance that I may never be on the radio again, but I am, and I'm still here, and I feel incredibly blessed and incredibly lucky. But it's difficult to pick a certain, favourite bit. I loved doing the evening show on the Pulse in West Yorkshire in the mid-90s. I loved doing that. That was a real highlight because it was right in the middle of Britpop. And then there was obviously getting Hallam Drive when I was 21. So yeah, there's just been lots. I've got favourite bits. I find it really difficult just to pick one bit. But yeah, I'm very blessed and very lucky still to get to sit behind one of these microphones.
It's an honour to actually interview you because it's a shame my mother's not here watching me interview because she was a big fan of yours as well.
She will be. She's around you. Don't you worry. She's
You're making me blush now because I knew this was going to be a bit of an emotional interview, but
she's there. She's around you. Her spirit. Yeah,
I'm proud of what you have achieved in your career as well.
Oh, thanks, Bet. Well, it's just hard work. You've just got to graft. You've got to keep grafting. And like I mentioned earlier, I annoy myself with ambition and I do my own heading. I don't think when I'm an old lady at 80-year-old, I'll still be going, right, what can I do? How can I do that different? Can I do that any different? What can I achieve with this? How can I do that? I'll never stop. I can't. I've got to keep pushing and keep coming up with new stuff all the time. It's just the way I'm wired. I just wish I could turn my brain off. It's just permanently on. I can't turn it off. Sorry.
Same. I can't turn my brain off because my brain's always active, you see, because I've been working hard on different projects and different interviews. And as you know, I'm just a busy bloke at the moment. I've never been more busy.
You are. It's good. It's good to be busy, though. It's really good.
And to be working with Darren Leafan, a man who I grew up listening to, is such an honour. And to be talking to you, a person who I grew up listening to, is such an honour, because I'm now meeting my heroes instead of, I'm living the dream instead of thinking about it.
Well, it's an honour to be on your podcast, Ben.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Question 6. What does radio mean to you?
Everything. Everything. Love it. I just love it. It's every show is like a field of unpicked flowers. You can create so much, and you know, I like sound effects. Not that I use them that much these days, but just by constructing a sentence or a paragraph or a thought process or something that can conjure up images in people's minds. Or you can talk about, say, for instance, you know, if I was to talk about fish and chips, for instance, with lashings of salt and vinegar, you can taste that now, can't you? Can you kind of taste the salt and vinegar and loads, and you can smell the fish and chips, because that's the power of speech. And that's why, you know, TV is brilliant, because it's just radio with pictures. But just being able to take, I was chatting to someone on the radio today, and they were talking about, it's about, obviously, the schools are not going to go back. If you're listening to this right now in January 2021, the schools are not going to go back. Well, the proposed date is the 8th of March. But I was chatting to this particular caller, and she was talking about homeschooling and how difficult it is for the kids not getting to spend time in the playground. And she started to describe the playground. And I did say to her, I said, do you know what? You will have, in everyone who's listening right now, you will have conjured up an image in their minds of how their playtime was or playground was, and the dinner ladies, and what their school looked like. And that's probably anyone who's listening to this right now. You're remembering, aren't you, what it was like when you were at junior school or even senior school, what it was like. And that's the power of speech. That's the power of radio. And that is why radio means everything to me.
Personally, I sometimes listen to you, but I listen to a man who's over here called Andy Comfort, who does our drive show.
Really good. I've got a lot of time for Andy. Great broadcaster.
Lovely man. He's a lovely bloke. I've actually had the pleasure of speaking to him a couple of times, because we were speaking a few times about the curvid stuff and about people not wearing masks and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he saw in the middle of Hull City Centre people not wearing masks when we were in the second national lockdown in November. And teenagers messing about and stuff, which is not very good during a national health crisis, if I'm honest.
No, it's not.
And no wonder the cases skyrocket like that. Well,
you've just got to stay safe. You've just got to stay safe. Just imagine that you've got it. Just imagine that you've got it. And if you imagine that you've got it, you'll stay away from everyone.
Yeah. Question 7. Why did you choose radio over other careers?
Oh, why did I choose radio over other careers? I always fancied working in the police force. I always liked that idea. I like the idea of being a detective or something like that. Just because I love radio, it's really difficult to explain why I love it. You probably can't explain why you love it, really. It's just, it's like you're like a magnet. like a duck that's drawn to water. You're just drawn to the radio, and there's something, I guess, something magical about it, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Why I chose radio over about my other careers is because radio, I want to inspire the next generation of broadcasters. I want the listeners to come first. I don't care about the money, about the viewer ratings. All I care about is my listeners and whoever's listening.
Exactly.
I don't care about the money or the pay rises.
Not about the money. It's not about the money. I think a lot of people think it's about the money, and it's not. And I've been really lucky. I did all right. I did okay in it, but it's never been about that. I'm the person that forgets to invoice for stuff because I just love doing it. I just love doing the job. So, yeah.
Question 8. What advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Don't do it. What advice would I give to someone who's starting out? Okay, so if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, right, I'd like to work in the world of radio. Well, I'm going to be really honest with you. The industry's changed a lot. Years ago, if you got fired from one station, there was always another radio station down the road that would have you or something. Well, that's a little bit different now. The standard is much higher. So, and it's difficult. When I first got in and, you got to help out, and I was on the overnight show at 16. There's none of those opportunities anymore. So I'd say have a good social media following. Look good. It's really important that you look good as well, because image is everything today, because you don't just hide behind a microphone anymore. People see you on social media. And also, when you're on the radio, be yourself. This has always been a massive thing. If anyone's ever asked for some advice, even 30, 40 years ago, the answer was always be yourself. Get into hospital radio if you can, because that is where you'll get some air miles. That's where you'll or community radio. That is where you'll get your experience. And then from there, you can really start building. But when I say be yourself, talk to the audience, talk to the listener, to the person that you're speaking to on the radio. Talk to them like you would your friend. Just, that's where be yourself comes into it. Just communicate, tell a story. When you're telling a story, you don't want it to go on for too long, because imagine if you were telling that story to someone who you were stood in front of. You wouldn't want that person to lose interest, would you? Or to drift off, or to change the subject because you were dribbling on too long. And it's like that on the radio. Keep things nice and concise, and always, this is I live by this, leave people wanting more. Always, less is more. Always leave them wanting more, and they'll come back. And that is why, some people say to me about the old show, Hirst's Daily Dose, and they love it and it's remembered fondly. I think it's because we came off in our prime. The show was good. It was all right. It was okay. But we came off in our prime when we were at our absolute height at 1.4 million listeners or something. And because it's remembered fondly, because we didn't end up, just regurgitating stuff. Everything that we did was new. And I think it's like your favorite TV show. If it goes on too long, you get a bit bored with it, don't you? But if it's like 12 episodes long, it leaves you wanting more. So yeah, less is more. Be yourself and work hard. That's my advice. I've got a lot more as well, but I don't want to bore you with it. See, less is more.
Right, that's it, Stephannie Hirst. Thank you for joining me today, agreeing to do this podcast. Join me again soon for the podcast with Sean Goldsmith. But for now, please give it up for our special guest, Stephannie Hirst.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have another podcast soon. But for now, that's a wrap. BL out.
Boom.
I've stopped recording, have I? Sorry, I'm just, getting used to this Zoom stuff. That was my interview with the legendary Stephannie Hirst. Hope you enjoyed it. More coming soon. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled and your ears peeled. So, yeah, lots of big things coming. My next interview will be with the legendary Sean Goldsmith from a podcast radio show series. So I hope you enjoy it. And I'll talk to you soon. Please subscribe, like, and whatever you do. Thanks very much for watching. And that's